The chandeliers sparkled like stars inside the grand ballroom of the Sterling Foundation Gala. $100 million worth of diamonds glittered on gowns, champagne fizzed in tall glasses, and every powerful name in the city had gathered under one roof. At the center of it all stood Damien Sterling, the billionaire heir everyone whispered about. He was brilliant, handsome, and, according to the tabloids, cold as the marble floors he owned. But tonight Damien had one problem: his so-called date had cancelled last minute, and the press was already circling like sharks. Just as he muttered a curse under his breath, his eyes landed on someone unexpected. A woman carrying a mop bucket, slipping quietly into a side hallway. Her uniform was plain, her hair pulled back, but there was something about the way she carried herself. Steady, strong and visible, yet not. Damien's instinct surprised even himself. He strode over and said in a low voice, "I need a favor. Just pretend to be my date tonight." The janitor froze, her hand still on the mop handle. "You're joking," she whispered. But the billionaire wasn't smiling. Her name was Rosa. She worked double shifts to put her younger brother through college. She had no business being in a room filled with designer gowns and polished politicians. Yet, within minutes, Rosa found herself at Damien's side, her worn shoes replaced with a pair of emergency heels his assistant dug up, and her uniform covered by a simple black dress pulled from the Gala's wardrobe department. As they walked back into the ballroom, heads turned. Whispers spread like wildfire. Who is she? Where did she come from? Damien expected Rosa to shrink under the spotlight. Instead, she lit up. She laughed at the nervous senator's stiff jokes, asked the CEO's wife about her children, and spoke to the waitstaff like they mattered. In a room where most people only pretended to care, Rosa's kindness was so genuine it stole the entire evening. For the first time in years, Damien wasn't the center of attention. She was, and he didn't mind one bit. The climax came when an elderly philanthropist in a wheelchair struggled to navigate the crowd. The elites turned their backs, pretending not to notice. But Rosa noticed. Without hesitation, she bent down, whispered something kind, and personally cleared the way so the man could join the dance floor. Cameras flashed, not at the billionaire, but at the janitor who had become the heart of the gala. Damien watched in silence, something unfamiliar rising in his chest. Admiration, respect, a longing he couldn't quite name. Later, when the night wound down and the guests finally departed, Damien turned to her. "You weren't supposed to fit in here, but somehow you outshone everyone." Rosa only smiled. "I didn't do anything special. People just want to be seen, Mr. Sterling. That's all." For a man used to deals and power plays, her words hit harder than any business lesson ever had. Weeks later, rumors buzzed that the billionaire had fallen for someone far outside his world. Some called it scandal, others called it impossible. But Damien knew the truth. The janitor hadn't just pretended to be his date. She had shown him a world where kindness was the only true currency. And in that world, he was willing to risk everything. Because sometimes the richest hearts are found in the most unexpected places. True worth isn't measured by wealth or titles, but by how we treat the people around us. Compassion, kindness, and humility are the qualities that shine brightest, no matter the room you walk into. Damien thought the gala would be the end of it. A one-night arrangement, a convenient cover. But Rosa's presence lingered in his mind long after the music faded and the lights dimmed. The following morning, when he walked into the Sterling Foundation office, his assistant handed him a newspaper. The headline read. Damien smirked, shaking his head. So much for keeping things quiet. But he didn't feel angry, he felt proud. That evening, he drove to the small apartment complex on the edge of the city. Rosa was coming off her shift, exhausted, her hands raw from scrubbing floors. When she spotted the luxury car, her eyes widened. "You can't just show up here," she whispered, pulling off her gloves. "I had to," Damien replied. "You reminded me of something last night, something I've been too blind to see." Rosa crossed her arms. "And what's that?" "That people matter more than power. That kindness isn't weakness, it's strength. And that maybe I need more of it in my life." For a moment, she didn't answer, but the hardness in her face softened. "Mr. Sterling, you don't need me for that lesson." "Maybe not," he admitted, "but I'd like you beside me while I learn." Over the next weeks, Damien invited Rosa, not as a date, not as a prop, but as a partner. At charity events, she insisted on speaking with volunteers instead of donors. At board meetings, she asked questions no one else dared to ask, like how the foundation's funds actually helped the families they claimed to serve. At first, his colleagues mocked her. But soon, they started listening. And little by little, the Sterling Foundation began to change. The real turning point came one afternoon when Rosa brought Damien to the hospital where her brother was recovering from surgery. The staff there, underfunded and overworked, lit up when Rosa walked in. She wasn't just a janitor to them, she was family. She knew every nurse's name, every patient's story. Damien saw it with his own eyes, the quiet power of someone who chose people over prestige. And in that moment, the billionaire realized Rosa hadn't just stolen the Gala, she had stolen his heart. Weeks turned into months, and the tabloids never stopped buzzing. The janitor and the billionaire. Some mocked, some romanticized, some doubted it would last. But Damien and Rosa didn't care, because while the world debated their differences, they were busy building bridges between wealth and struggle, privilege and humility, indifference and compassion. One evening, standing on the rooftop of the Sterling Tower, Damien looked at Rosa and said softly, "You changed everything I thought I knew about love. About life. You were never just pretending." Rosa smiled, her eyes shining. "Neither were you." And under the city lights, brighter than the chandeliers of any gala, Damien Sterling kissed the woman who taught him that the truest riches are found not in what you own, but in who you choose to stand beside. When you strip away the titles, the wealth and the spotlight, what truly matters is kindness. And sometimes the simplest people teach us the greatest lessons.